Hello, everyone. My name is Mike, and I'll be your guide today as we dive into the teaching approach Explicit Direct Instruction, or EDI for short. Now, I'm not the expert. That's where our two distinguished speakers come in, Joel Soto and John Hollingsworth. Together, they'll discuss what Explicit Direct Instruction is, why it works, and how it can transform learning for all students. So grab a notebook if you'd like to jot down some ideas, and let's get ready to learn from these inspiring voices. Without further ado, let's welcome Joel and John.
Hi, everyone. This is Joel with Explicit Direct Instruction. And of course, I'm joined here with Mr. John Hollingsworth. Say hello, John.
Hello, Joel. I think we're ready to go.
All right. Hey, everyone. Today, we're just going to talk about and introduce our listeners to Explicit Direct Instruction and some of the great benefits. Now, John, well, we're going to start with you, a little bit of background. So, John, you're an engineer by trade, organic farmer, musician. You haven't eaten sugar in 50 years. You're a marathon runner now. What inspired you? What gave you the ideas? Where did Explicit Direct Instruction, where did EDI start with?
Well, the first place that actually started education, my wife, Dr. Sylvia Ybarra, I was helping her with her doctoral dissertation. And we were measuring test scores, control group, experimental group, standard, data analysis. And it became her thesis and got her doctorate. But some other schools saw these reports on test data and said, can you come to our school and make some charts and graphs to explain our test data? And this was before the internet. Anybody can go to the internet now and kind of look at these things. But we were some of the first ones. But I'm going to tell you, as we went, we started working in more and more schools. I think you remember, Joel, we collected 2 million student assignments, measured alignment of the assignments to the standards. But one thing we started doing was going to the classrooms. We were approved consultants for the state of California to do school reform. And we said, we need to go in the classroom and look at what's going on in instruction. And we were not seeing what we wanted to see or what we expected to see. And Joe, you know the things we talk about now in EDI, the pair share, complete sentences, concept development. And we weren't seeing all of those. And also the EL, English Learner Strategies, we weren't seeing them. And so we actually sat down and started writing our own book.
Oh, my goodness. I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to say something. I know people are listening to our podcast for the first time. And I think one of the funnest things you just said right now is you're looking at test data and you're going into classroom. And today I'm kind of wondering if our administrators are still doing that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of fun. You realize that a long time ago. I think teachers really appreciate to hear that you go in the classroom. So you start compiling this book, this Explicit Direct Instruction. You're starting with data. So sort of paint a picture for me on you're helping Dr. Sylvia out. Paint a picture for us at home where, how did you know, where did you know to go get information? I know you made a lot of stuff yourself by observations, but tell us how you put that together.
Well, I'm a pretty strong programmer. I've got programming background. So I was able to take the data from their school district and do the disaggregations, the typical ones, English learners, low SES, male, female, different categories, and do this. And there was a big push back there to do it. And here in California, there was even a law that the schools had to do some kind of multiple measures and, analyze their data and stuff. And we were up to about 600 schools, but I had a moment of kind of a eureka moment, I guess you'd say. We went to a school in Northern California. We were explaining the graphs of the test scores to the principal, and he looked up at us and said, don't show me the test scores, show me how to raise the test scores. And Sylvia and I looked at each other. I actually, at that instant, I said, we're in the wrong business. You don't raise test scores by testing students. You raise test scores by teaching students. I said, we should be looking at teaching. And Joel, I was reading a lot of these business improvement books. They're out all the time. And there's a strategy called process improvement. We're trying to improve like manufacturing for a car, improve the process, or chip making, even computer chips, the process of making them. So Sylvia and I had the idea, can we improve the process of instruction? And, we started collecting student work. Let's look at what students are being taught. And then let's go in the classroom and see how they're being taught. And then, of course, Sylvia started synthesizing all this. And we started with a lot of research, Rosenshine. There's a lot of people, the original direct instruction people. And we kind of synthesized that, but then gave it the twist of what we were seeing in classrooms ourselves.
So we have data, we have research, we have a compelling story, and ultimately, what does it look like in the classroom? Now, for our listeners here, this is our textbook definition of EDI, and I'm going to say it, but I want you to translate it into English for us, okay? EDI, Explicit Direct Instruction, is a tier one instructional methodology that relies on specific teacher, student behaviors, and interaction that maximizes student learning. That's a textbook definition. Can you kind of give me the translate it for us and tell us what that really means?
Well, let's back up one second.
Yeah.
Let's understand what tier one is. Tier one is the basic day-to-day grade level instruction. And the best school reform would be students learning more the first time they're taught. So if we use EDI for basic day-to-day standards-based instruction, it would actually be the best reform of kids learning more every single day. So, but let me back up for EDI for a second. EDI really has two things. It's lesson design and lesson delivery. You need both of them. You need concept development, you need skill development, but then you need checking for understanding. So some of the things are at the design level and some are at the delivery level. So you want me to just give you a few tips?
Yeah, one or two tips. We don't want to go over time too much, but this is really interesting stuff. And I know we're just beginning our episodes, and we hope our listeners keep listening every single day that we release these podcasts. But give us just one little hints here, just to help us out.
Okay, I'm going to start with the lesson design.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, one thing we need to add is a strong concept development. The students need conceptual knowledge, and that requires a written definition. A fraction is, compare and contrast text structure is, simultaneous equations are, perimeter is, volume is. And we're not just in math, we're not just working numbers, we're actually understanding conceptually what we're doing. So I'm going to say,
right. And in your mind, you envision that on the projector. That's on the whiteboard. That's on the, we have that up someplace so everybody can see it, and we're going to interact with that. Okay, I'm with you so far. Keep going.
Yeah, we're going to have written definitions. Now, written definition is not enough. A student can read a definition and not know what it means. So we always have examples to go with it. And part of the art of teaching is reading the definition and then pointing to the examples and show how those examples actually exemplify or illustrate what that means. So that's part of the job of teaching. And we're not a scripted program where you're reading a script. I expect to have a written definition and examples. And it's your job as a teacher to explain what that definition means. Okay, the next part of Yep.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to say I'm really happy you said that, because it seems like when you go on social media and things like that, it seems like everybody kind of pushes back from EDI sometimes because they think it's scripted. I haven't seen a script yet. If there is one, I wish I was using it right now. Keep going. Give us one or two other more thoughts. Go ahead, please.
There were some scripted programs in the past. I think it gave a bad name to it. It's more like chanting. You're just reading back and forth. There's no higher order questions. So we're not doing that type of chanting. And then the checking for understanding is the next thing you need for concept development. You need a higher order checking for understanding. And Joel, here's a big tip. You've just given an example of something, like a fraction or something. You don't ask a checking for understanding about the example you use. You apply it to a new example, not the same one you did. So if you've explained a simile or metaphor, your checking for understanding would be a new simile or a new metaphor, a different one. The kids have to apply their knowledge to it.
Oh, yeah. I always see that. I feel like our teachers are really good at doing, I feel like I'm really comfortable at doing depth of knowledge questions. Like number one, like what's a character? But sometimes I struggle at higher order thinking questions like, how is it not a character? What, can you make your own character? And it feels like it's kind of hard to come up with those on the fly sometimes.
Well, we used to battle that Bloom's taxonomy, and I used to go to seminars where the whole session would be arguing about DOK, depth of knowledge. Is it 2? Is it 3? And we didn't move forward. We were just classifying. So we need a faster way. So what we do in EDI is the students have to justify every answer. Justify. Who's the character and how do you know? What's the perimeter and how did you calculate it? What's the answer and how do you know? So you always have to justify your answer. And that makes every question a higher order question. You have to put together your own thoughts and explain how you did it. So that's one thing we've done here. We've kind of gotten away from getting bogged down in all the levels and just do that justifier answer. And Joel, the lesson itself sometimes defines it. It'll way down in first and second grade, it'll say identify characters. And then it'll say later analyze characters. And it'll say compare and contrast characters. And you might even get up a high school or a higher grade, evaluate characterization. So Bloom's is kind of built into the standards.
Yeah, I see that. And when you say application questions, I think of high stake assessments all the time. So you're definitely resonating with me. Mr. John, we're running low on time, but once again, we're going to have multiple episodes as we start releasing these more and more. And my last question or my last thought for you is, as we're running out of time here, when you were looking at explicit direct instruction, many, many years ago, many moons ago, and versus now, and I know you have a new edition of the book. I know you have the EL version and you have translations in multiple places. What is sort of the new direction, or what are some of the new thoughts you have for explicit direct instruction?
Well, I think one of our biggest breakthrough was this idea of student engagement. We can create engagement, and teachers, they want engaged students. I said, could we have some strategies to do it? They were in the very original EDI ideas. The ideas were in the original book, but we didn't coalesce it under that umbrella of engagement. Okay, so if you just use an example like a pair share, now in our case, engagement means everybody does something. Like we're doing something. The teacher directs all the students to do something. So when the teacher says, turn to your partner and explain the diagram to your partner, okay, everybody does it. So write your answer on your whiteboard, turn to your partner, explain the answer to your partner. And I want both partners to talk. So the whole class is doing it. And whiteboards is another example. We've used whiteboards all along. But now I realize whiteboards creates engagement because every child has to do something. Everybody get your whiteboard up, write an answer, turn to your partner. So I think one of the biggest changes we made in the last few years is this idea of creating engagement, very specifically. And, they're all academic stuff. Dare share, pronounce words with me, do choral reading, whiteboards.
Well, that's wonderful.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you enjoyed learning about explicit direct instruction, or EDI, and the incredible journey behind its development. John and Joel gave us a deep dive into how EDI began, its core principles, and how it's evolved to ensure maximum student engagement and effective teaching. From lesson design to lesson delivery, EDI provides educators with a proven approach to help students learn more the first time they are taught. As we wrap up, we encourage you to stay tuned for future episodes where we'll continue exploring the powerful strategies of EDI, including practical tips and new insights for engaging all students, especially English learners. Until then, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.